Princess Alara stood at the window of her ship and watched the planet below. New Terra looked like a blue and green gem floating in space. She had seen many worlds in her 28 years, but this one made her nervous. This was where she would marry a human. This was where her life would change forever. Her advisor, an old Valyrian named Corin, stepped beside her. He had silver skin that shimmered in the light, just like hers. All Valyrians looked this way. It was one of the many things that made them different from humans. "Are you ready, princess?" Corin asked. Alara touched the glass with her long fingers. "Does it matter if I am ready? The treaty requires this marriage. My feelings do not change that. Your mother wants peace," Corin said softly. "The war with the Kreth Empire has lasted too long. Too many have died." Alara knew this was true. The Kreth were brutal warriors who wanted to control every world in the galaxy. They had attacked the Coalition for 30 years. Millions had died. The Valyrian Empire had lost entire colonies. When the humans offered an alliance, Empress Kaida had accepted quickly. But the humans wanted something in return. They wanted a bond that could not be broken easily. They wanted a royal marriage. The ship began its descent. Alara watched the clouds part as they moved through the atmosphere. She had studied everything about humans before this trip. They were strange creatures. They came from a harsh world called Earth. Their planet had more gravity than most worlds. It had dangerous weather and deadly animals. Somehow, humans had survived and become strong, but they were new to the galaxy. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 20 years ago. Most species treated them like children who did not understand how things worked. Alara had expected her husband to be some proud soldier who wanted to show how tough he was. She had prepared herself to deal with someone difficult. The landing pad was full of people when her ship touched down. Alara could see humans in their dark blue uniforms. She could see other species too. There were tall Zentari with their 4 arms. There were small Pixith who barely reached a human's waist. The Coalition had sent representatives from 12 different species to witness this wedding. Alara walked down the ramp with Corin behind her. The air on New Terra was thicker than on her home world. It made breathing feel strange. A human woman in an admiral's uniform stepped forward. She had short brown hair and sharp eyes. "Princess Alara, welcome to New Terra. I am Admiral Lisa Grant." Alara bowed her head slightly. "Thank you, Admiral. I am honored to be here." "Commander Morrison is waiting inside," Lisa said. "He wanted to meet you privately before the ceremony." Alara followed the Admiral into a large building. They walked through hallways filled with humans moving quickly from place to place. Everyone they passed stopped and saluted Lisa. But Alara noticed something odd. After saluting Lisa, many of them glanced at a door at the end of the hall. Their faces changed when they looked at that door. They showed something close to respect, but deeper. Lisa opened the door and gestured for Alara to enter. "I will leave you two alone." Alara stepped inside, and the door closed behind her. The room was simple. It had a desk, some chairs, and a window that showed the city below. A man stood by the window with his back to her. He wore the same dark blue uniform as the other humans, but his had fewer decorations than she expected. He turned around and looked at her. Alara studied him carefully. Commander Jake Morrison was not what she had imagined. He was tall, yes, but not unusually so. He had dark hair cut short and brown eyes that seemed to take in everything. He was maybe 35 years old. His face showed no arrogance. In fact, he looked almost uncomfortable. "Princess Alara," he said. His voice was quiet and steady. "Thank you for coming all this way." "I did not have much choice," Alara said. She wanted to be honest. "My empire needs this alliance." Jake nodded slowly. "I understand. Neither of us asked for this." Alara had not expected him to admit that. Most military officers she knew would have pretended to be happy about everything. "You are a commander in the human fleet?" "Yes," Jake said. He walked to one of the chairs and sat down. He gestured for her to sit as well. "I have served for 17 years. The reports say you are important to this alliance," Alara said as she sat. "But they do not say why." What makes you special, Commander Morrison? Jake looked uncomfortable with the question. I am not special. I just do my job. The Valyrian Empire does not marry its princesses to people who just do their jobs, Alara said. What are you not telling me? Before Jake could answer, an alarm sounded. Both of them stood up quickly. The door opened, and Lisa rushed in. Sir, we have a situation, Lisa said to Jake. Then she seemed to remember Alara was there. I mean, Commander, there is a situation. What kind? Jake asked. His whole manner had changed. The uncomfortable man was gone. Now he looked focused and calm. 3 unauthorized ships appeared near the station. They are not responding to communication. Jake walked to the desk and tapped on a screen built into the surface. Images appeared in the air above it. Alara could see 3 small ships moving in a strange pattern. They were too close to the station where the wedding would happen. Kreth scouts, Jake said. They want to disrupt the ceremony. We have 6 ships ready to intercept, Lisa said. Jake studied the images for a moment. He did not speak. He did not give orders. He just looked at the screen with those calm brown eyes. Then he glanced up at Lisa. It was just a look. It lasted maybe 2 seconds. But something passed between them that Alara did not understand. Understood, Lisa said. She left the room quickly. Jake turned back to Alara. I apologize. Where were we? What just happened? Alara asked. You did not say anything. Lisa knows what to do, Jake said simply. Alara walked to the desk and looked at the screen. The 6 human ships were moving now. They did not chase the Kreth scouts directly. Instead, they spread out in a pattern that made no sense to her at first. Then she saw it. The Kreth ships were being pushed into a corner. Within minutes, all 3 surrendered. Without a single shot being fired, she looked at Jake with new eyes. You planned that, just now. In your head. And Admiral Grant understood from one look. Jake shrugged slightly. We have worked together for a long time. Alara felt her skin prickle with awareness. Something was wrong with this picture. No, not wrong. Something was different than what she had been told. Commanders did not move fleets with glances. Admirals did not defer to commanders with fewer decorations, unless the decorations did not tell the whole story. I think, Alara said slowly, that I do not know who I am really marrying. Jake met her eyes. For the first time, she saw something in them. It was not pride or arrogance. It was sadness mixed with acceptance. You will figure it out eventually. Everyone does. I am sorry for that. Sorry for what? For not being what you expected, Jake said. For being more complicated than a simple alliance marriage should require. Before Alara could ask what he meant, Corin entered the room. Princess, it is time to prepare for the ceremony. Alara followed Corin out, but she looked back at Jake one more time. He had returned to the window and was staring at the city below. He looked like a man carrying a great weight that no one else could see. The wedding ceremony was beautiful. 12 species had sent representatives. Everyone made speeches about peace and unity. Alara wore the traditional silver robes of a Valyrian bride. Jake wore his uniform. They spoke the words that bound them together in the eyes of the law. But throughout the ceremony, Alara kept watching the other humans. They all looked at Jake with the same expression she had seen in the hallway. It was not the way soldiers looked at a commander. It was the way people looked at someone who had saved their lives. Someone they would follow anywhere. Someone who mattered more than decorations and titles could show. When the ceremony ended and everyone celebrated, Alara stood beside her new husband and wondered what she had really agreed to. This was supposed to be a simple political marriage, but Jake Morrison was not a simple man, and she had a feeling that discovering the truth about him would change everything she thought she knew about humans and their place in the galaxy. She was right. But she did not know how right until much later. The station called Harmony Point floated between 3 star systems. It was neutral territory, where all coalition species could meet safely. This was where Alara and Jake would spend their first week as husband and wife. The humans called it a honeymoon. The Valyrians had no such custom. But Alara agreed to it anyway. She needed time to understand the man she had married. Their quarters were on the diplomatic level of the station. The rooms were large and comfortable, with windows that showed the stars outside. Alara had her own sleeping chamber, and Jake had his. There was no expectation that they would share a bed. This was a political marriage. Both of them understood that. On the first morning, Alara woke early and found Jake already awake. He sat at a desk with multiple screens floating in the air around him. Lines of text and images moved across them too fast for her to read. Jake's eyes moved from screen to screen, taking in information. "You did not sleep," Alara said. Jake glanced up. "I slept for 4 hours. That is enough. What are you reading?" "Reports," Jake said. "Kreth fleet movements. Supply lines. Battle damage assessments from the border colonies." Alara moved closer. The information on the screens was military data. Very detailed military data. "Why do you read these? You are just a commander. Surely your superiors handle such things." Jake's expression did not change. "I like to stay informed." Alara had learned many things about humans since arriving on New Terra. One thing she learned was that they often did not say what they really meant. Jake was doing that now. He was not just reading these reports. He was studying them, analyzing them, looking for patterns that others might miss. "The Kreth attacked 3 colonies last week," Jake said, still looking at the screens. "They destroyed 2 of them completely. The third one fought back long enough for help to arrive." "I heard about those attacks," Alara said. "Many people died." 7,000 civilians, Jake said quietly. 3,000 soldiers. Most of them were Zentari. They fought well. Alara noticed that Jake knew the exact numbers without checking. He had memorized them. "Does it bother you? The deaths?" "Yes," Jake said. He closed the screens with a gesture. "Every single one bothers me. That is why I read the reports, so I remember what we are fighting for." They ate breakfast together. The station had food from many different worlds. Alara chose fruits from her home planet. Jake ate something called eggs and toast. They did not talk much. Alara was not sure what to say to this man who was now her husband, but still a stranger. Later that day, they attended a formal dinner with representatives from other coalition species. Everyone wanted to meet the princess who had married a human. Alara smiled and spoke the right words. She played her role perfectly. Jake stood beside her, quiet and polite, letting her take the attention. Admiral Lisa Grant was there. She approached them during the meal. "Commander, I hope you are enjoying your time here. It is good to have a break from regular duties," Jake said. Lisa smiled. It was a strange smile. "Of course. Although I heard you have been reviewing the situation reports. Just staying current," Jake said. "Naturally," Lisa said. She looked at Alara. "Has your husband told you about the Battle of Crimson Nebula, Princess?" Alara shook her head. "No. What battle was that?" Lisa's smile grew wider. "It was 3 years ago. The Kreth attacked a human colony with 50 warships. We only had 5 ships to defend. Everyone thought the colony was lost, but then something changed. The way we fought changed. We won that battle, Princess. 5 ships against 50. And we did not lose a single vessel." "How is that possible?" Alara asked. "You would have to ask someone who was there," Lisa said. She looked at Jake with meaning in her eyes. "I am sure the commander could tell you about it." Jake said nothing. He just took a drink from his glass and looked away. Lisa excused herself and moved to talk with other guests. Alara stared at her husband. "You were there," Alara said. "It was not a question." "I was there," Jake admitted. "What did you do?" "My job," Jake said. Alara wanted to push for more information, but other guests came to speak with them. The dinner lasted for hours. By the end, Alara's face hurt from smiling. When they finally returned to their quarters, she was exhausted. Jake went back to his screens. Alara watched him for a moment, then went to her own room. She used her personal computer to search for information about the Battle of Crimson Nebula. She found reports, but they were strange. Large sections were marked as classified. The parts she could read did not make sense. They talked about tactics that seemed impossible. They mentioned a command structure that kept changing during the battle. They said the human ships moved like they were one mind, not 5 separate crews. One report mentioned Commander Morrison specifically. It said he was present on the flagship, but it did not say what he did. The report called him an advisor. That word bothered Elara. Advisors did not win impossible battles. Advisors did not make admirals smile with secret knowledge. The next morning, Elara was on the observation deck when a human captain approached her. He was young, maybe 30 years old. His name tag said Torres. "Princess Elara?" he said. "May I speak with you?" "Of course, Captain Torres." The young man looked nervous. "I wanted to say that I am glad you married the commander. I know it was for political reasons, but he deserves something good in his life." "You know my husband?" Elara asked. "Everyone knows the commander," Torres said. "He saved my life at Crimson Nebula. He saved all of us." Elara's heart beat faster. "What did he do, Captain? Please tell me." Torres looked around to make sure no one was listening. "The Admiral ordered us to hold position and fight. We were going to die. Everyone knew it. Then the commander walked onto the bridge. He did not say much. He just looked at the tactical display for about 30 seconds. Then he started talking. He told us exactly where to go, exactly when to fire, exactly how to move. It was like he could see the whole battle before it happened. We did what he said. We survived. 50 Kreth ships did not. But he is just a commander," Elara said. "How could he take control from an admiral?" Torres smiled. "The admiral gave him control. They always give him control when things get bad. He is the best we have. The best anyone has." Before Elara could ask more questions, Torres's communication device beeped. He looked at it, and his face went pale. "The Kreth are attacking the Velar system. I have to go." He rushed away. Elara stood there, her mind spinning with questions. She returned to their quarters and found Jake on a communication call. A woman's face floated in the air above his desk. She wore a captain's uniform and looked worried. "The Third Fleet is out of position," the woman was saying. "If the Kreth push past Velar, they will reach the mining colonies. Move the Third Fleet to coordinates 77 Alpha," Jake said. His voice was calm. "Position the Fifth Fleet at 92 Beta. Keep the Second Fleet in reserve at 44 Gamma." "Sir, that leaves the Velar system with only minimal defense. The Kreth will not push past Velar," Jake said. "They will commit everything to taking the planet. When they do, the Third Fleet will cut off their supply line. The Fifth Fleet will block their retreat. They will be trapped." The woman on the screen nodded slowly. Elara could see understanding dawn on her face. "I see it now. It will work. Captain Wilson, make sure your people know the plan. Timing is important." "Yes, sir," Wilson said. The call ended. Jake turned and saw Elara standing there. He did not look surprised. He did not look guilty. He just looked tired. "You just moved 3 fleets," Elara said. Her voice shook. "You gave orders to ships across multiple star systems. But you are not an admiral. You are not even a general." "How?" Jake stood up slowly. "I told you that you would figure it out eventually." "Figure what out?" "That you are secretly in charge of the entire human military?" "Not in charge," Jake said. "I do not give orders. I make suggestions. People are free to ignore them." "But they do not ignore them," Elara said. "They do exactly what you say. Every time." "Why?" Jake walked to the window and looked out at the stars. "Because I am usually right. Because I see things others do not see. Because I have been doing this since I was 20 years old, and I have never led people into a battle we could not win." Elara felt like the floor had disappeared under her feet. "You have been commanding human forces for 15 years? Since you were 20? Not commanding, advising. It is the same thing," Elara said. "Oh, ancestors. My mother married me to the most important military mind in the human empire. And no one told me. They did not tell you because I am not supposed to be important. Jake said. On paper, I am just a commander. I have no official authority over fleets or armies. But when there is a crisis, people ask for my opinion. And I give it. Why hide it? Why not accept a real rank? Jake turned to face her. Because rank brings politics. It brings people who want to use you for power. It brings responsibility for things I cannot control. I just want to protect people. That is all. Titles get in the way of that. Alara walked slowly to a chair and sat down. Her legs felt weak. The marriage was not random, was it? They chose you specifically. Admiral Grant suggested it, Jake said. She thought having me connected to the Valyrian royal family would strengthen the alliance. She thought it would give me a reason to care about protecting your people. Not just mine. Did it work? Jake looked at her carefully. Yes, I do care about protecting your people now, because you are one of them, and you are my wife. That matters to me. Even if this marriage was not your choice. Alara did not know what to say. She had come to this marriage expecting to deal with a simple soldier. Instead, she had married someone who moved entire fleets with quiet words. Someone who won impossible battles. Someone who held more real power than most admirals and generals combined. And he had told her the truth. He could have kept hiding it, but he had told her anyway. What happens now? Alara asked. Now we finish our honeymoon, Jake said. And then we go back to New Terra. You will do your diplomatic work. I will do mine. We will figure out how to live together. That is all we can do. Alara looked at her husband and realized something important. Jake Morrison did not want power. He did not want glory. He wanted to save lives. That was why people followed him. Not because he demanded it, because he earned it every single day. She was married to a man who commanded armies with a glance. But he was also a man who stayed up late reading reports about the dead so he would remember why those deaths mattered. Maybe this marriage would be more than just politics after all. The emergency summons came 6 days after Alara and Jake returned to New Terra. A message appeared on every communication device at the same time. The Kreth Empire had launched a full assault on Coalition space. 3 major colonies were under attack. More attacks were expected. All Coalition leaders were ordered to gather at Coalition Prime for an emergency war council. Alara and Jake boarded a fast ship that same hour. The journey took 2 days. Jake spent most of that time reading reports and watching tactical displays. Alara tried to talk with him, but he was focused completely on the information flowing across his screens. She could see his mind working, processing thousands of details, looking for patterns. It is worse than they are saying, Jake told her on the second day. The Kreth are not just raiding anymore. This is a real invasion. They want to break the Coalition completely. Can they do that? Alara asked. Jake was quiet for a long moment. If we fight the way we usually fight, yes. The Coalition has 7 member species. Each one wants to protect their own territory first. We do not work together well. The Kreth know this. They are using it against us. So what do? We convince everyone to fight as one force, Jake said. Or we lose everything. Coalition Prime was the political heart of the galaxy. The planet held the Great Assembly Hall, where all member species met to make decisions. When Alara and Jake arrived, the hall was already full of people. She saw representatives from every Coalition species. Zentari with their 4 arms. Small Pixith who needed special chairs to reach the table. Tall Vexians with their blue skin. And of course, Valyrians like herself. High Chancellor Marcus Webb stood at the center of the room. He was human, but he had been elected by all Coalition members. His silver hair and lined face made him look old and tired. Welcome, Princess Alara and Commander Morrison. Please take your seats. There were 2 chairs marked for them near the back of the room. Alara walked to them with Jake following. She noticed that every human in the room glanced at Jake as he passed. It was quick, just a second, but she saw it. They all did it. Even Marcus Webb, who was supposed to be in charge of everything, looked at Jake with something in his eyes that Alara now recognized. Respect. Trust. Hope. General Lisa Rodriguez stood and activated a large display in the center of the room. It showed a map of coalition space. Red marks covered it like a disease. Each red mark was a Kreth attack. "The situation is critical," Lisa said. Her voice was hard and professional. "The Kreth have launched coordinated attacks on 17 systems. They have destroyed 6 colonies completely. Millions are dead. Our forces are scattered, trying to defend too many places at once." A Zentari general stood up. His name was Korath, and he commanded the largest coalition fleet. "My ships are defending Zentari worlds. I cannot move them to help others without leaving my people unprotected." A Vexian admiral named Jaren spoke next. "The same is true for us. Every species must protect their own first." "That is exactly what the Kreth want," Marcus Webb said. "They want us divided. If we do not work together, they will destroy us one system at a time." "Easy for you to say," a Pixith representative squeaked. Her name was Lyra. "Humans have the strongest fleet. You can afford to spread your forces. We cannot." The argument went on for an hour. Every species made the same point. They could not risk their homeworlds to save others. Alara watched Jake during all of this. He sat quietly, saying nothing, but his eyes never stopped moving. He looked at the display. He looked at the representatives. He looked at the reports on his personal screen. He was reading everything, seeing everything, calculating everything. Ambassador Nicole Price, the human representative, tried to speak several times. But the other species talked over her. Finally, she turned to Jake. "Commander Morrison, what do you think we should do?" The room went quiet. Everyone turned to look at Jake. Alara saw confusion on some faces. Who was this commander that an ambassador would ask for his opinion? But the humans in the room had different expressions. They knew who Jake was. Jake stood up slowly. He walked to the tactical display at the center of the room. He did not ask permission. He just walked up and stood in front of it. Lisa Rodriguez stepped aside to let him have space. "May I?" Jake asked, gesturing to the display controls. Marcus Webb nodded. "Please." Jake touched the controls and the display changed. Now it showed not just the Kreth attacks, but coalition fleet positions too. Blue marks appeared across the map. Each one was a coalition ship or battle group. "The Kreth have 60% more ships than we do," Jake said. His voice was quiet, but somehow it carried through the whole room. Everyone leaned forward to hear him. "They are faster because they do not argue about what to do. They have one leader, one mind, one strategy. We cannot be like them," Korath said. "We are free peoples. We do not follow dictators." "I am not suggesting you follow a dictator," Jake said. "I am suggesting you follow a plan." He touched the display again. The blue marks began to move. They formed new patterns across the map. "Here is what the Kreth expect us to do. They expect each species to pull back and defend their core worlds. When we do that, they will have time to consolidate their captured territory. They will fortify it. Then, they will attack again, from a stronger position." "So what is your plan?" Jaren asked. Jake's fingers moved across the controls. The blue marks shifted into completely different positions. "We do not defend. We attack." "Attack?" Lyra said. "We are losing ground and you want to attack?" "The Kreth have spread their forces across 17 systems," Jake explained. "They are strong in each place, but they left their supply lines exposed. If we hit these 3 points at the same time, we cut off 12 of their battle groups from resupply." He highlighted 3 systems on the map. They were deep in contested space, far from any coalition world. These systems are the hubs of their logistics network. Take them, and the Kreth ships at the front line run out of fuel and ammunition in 6 days. "You want us to leave our colonies undefended and attack supply depots?" Korath's voice was full of doubt. "Not undefended," Jake said. He made another gesture. New blue marks appeared on the map. "We leave minimal forces to hold key positions. Just enough to make the Kreth think we are still defending normally. Meanwhile, we take 70% of our combat strength and form 3 strike groups. Each group hits one logistics hub, fast, hard, and at the exact same time. The Kreth will see us moving, Jaren said. Yes. Jake agreed. That is why the timing is important. We move in stages. We make it look like we are repositioning for defense. By the time they realize what we are really doing, it will be too late to stop us. Jake stood back from the display. The map showed a plan that was either brilliant or insane. Alara could not tell which, but she could see the logic in it. The Kreth had moved fast and hit hard. Jake wanted to use their own strategy against them. Marcus Webb studied the display carefully. This plan puts everything at risk. If the strikes fail, we lose most of our fleet. If we defend the way we have been defending, we lose everything anyway, Jake said. This gives us a chance. What if the Kreth adapt? What if they change their strategy when they see us moving? Lisa Rodriguez asked. Jake looked at her. Then we adapt too. But I do not think they will. The Kreth do not respect us enough to think we would try something this aggressive. They think we are weak because we argue. They think we will hide behind our walls. We use that against them. How can you be so certain this will work? Korath demanded. Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I am not certain. I am never certain. But I have run the simulations in my head 17 different ways. This plan works in 14 of them. The other 3 fail because of factors we cannot control, like reinforcements arriving early. But even those 3 scenarios give us a fighting chance. Defending gives us no chance at all. The room was silent. Ilara watched the faces of the leaders around her. They were all thinking the same thing. This human commander had just outlined a complete battle strategy in minutes. He had seen patterns they had missed. He had found a weakness in the Kreth invasion that no one else had noticed. Who are you? Korath asked suddenly. You are just a commander. You have no rank to speak of strategy for the entire coalition. Jake looked uncomfortable again, the way he had in their first meeting. I am just someone who thinks about tactics. Admiral Grant can confirm the plan is sound. Lisa Grant stood up. I can confirm more than that. Commander Morrison has never lost a battle. Not once in 15 years. When he says something will work, it works. Every human officer in this room will tell you the same thing. Around the room, human officers nodded. Nicole Price spoke up. The commander is being modest. He is the reason humanity survived first contact with hostile species. He is the reason we won at Crimson Nebula and a dozen other battles. He does not hold high rank because he does not want it. But make no mistake, when humans fight, we fight his way. Korath looked at the other Zentari representatives. They whispered to each other in their own language. Finally, Korath turned back to the room. If the humans trust this plan, we will consider it. One by one, the other species agreed to consider the plan. They argued about details. They questioned specific movements. Jake answered every question with calm precision. He knew exactly how many ships were needed in each location. He knew how long each strike would take. He knew what the Kreth response would be, and how to counter it. It was like watching someone solve a puzzle that everyone else could barely see. After 4 hours, Marcus Webb called for a vote. The plan passed. Every species agreed to contribute forces to the strike groups. They would follow Jake's strategy. When the council ended, Ilara walked with Jake back to their ship. She could hear people talking behind them. The word spread fast. The human commander had a plan. The human commander would save them. Do you feel the weight of it? Ilara asked. All those people trusting you? I always feel it, Jake said quietly. Every time I make a plan, I know that people will die if I am wrong. That weight never goes away. You just learn to carry it. They reached their quarters on the ship. Jake immediately started working with his screens, coordinating with fleet commanders to implement the plan. Ilara watched him work and realized something important. Jake had not wanted to speak at the War Council. He had not wanted to be the center of attention. But when Nicole asked for his opinion, he had given it. Because people needed help. Because the alternative was letting everyone die. That was who Jake Morrison was. a man who would rather hide in the shadows, but a man who would step forward when necessary. A man who carried the weight of thousands of lives and never complained about it. Ilara's mother had arranged this marriage to create a political bond. She had thought she was marrying her daughter to a useful military officer. Instead, she had connected the Valyrian Empire to the most dangerous weapon the Coalition had. Not a weapon of destruction. A weapon of strategy and hope. And Ilara was beginning to realize that she did not just respect her husband. She was starting to love him. The strike on the Kreeth logistics hubs worked exactly as Jake had predicted. 3 Coalition battle groups hit 3 targets at the same moment. Within 2 days, 12 Kreeth battle groups were stranded without fuel or ammunition. They either surrendered or tried to retreat. The Coalition captured or destroyed them all. But the Kreeth Empire was not finished. General Victor Kane, their supreme military commander, gathered every remaining ship in Kreeth space. He formed the largest fleet anyone had ever seen. 200 warships, all heading toward one target: Earth, the human home world. The message from Kane reached Coalition Prime 3 days after the successful strikes. It played on every screen in the war room. Kane was a tall creature with dark red skin and 4 eyes. His voice sounded like gravel grinding together. "Humans," Kane said in the message, "you have shown cunning, you have shown strength, but you have made a mistake. You have made yourselves the priority target. My entire fleet comes for your home world. Surrender now, and I will spare your colonies. Resist, and I will turn Earth into dust." The message ended. Marcus Webb looked at Jake. "Can we defend Earth?" "We can try," Jake said. "But 200 ships is more than we can handle in direct combat. We need to be smart about where we fight them." "Where do you suggest?" Jake brought up a star map. He pointed to a system between Kreeth space and Earth. "The Shattered Rings. It is an asteroid field around a dead planet. Old ruins everywhere. Lots of places to hide. Lots of ways to move without being seen. If we fight there, we can use the terrain against them." "How many ships do we have?" Lisa Rodriguez asked. 68, Nicole Price said. "That is every ship we can gather without leaving the colonies completely undefended." 68 against 200, Korath said. "Those are bad numbers." "The numbers do not matter as much as how we use them," Jake said. He began moving markers on the star map. "We split our forces into smaller groups. We use the asteroids for cover. We hit them from multiple angles. We make them think we have more ships than we do." "That is a lot of coordination," Jaren said. "One mistake, and we lose ships to friendly fire." Jake nodded. "That is why I need direct tactical command. I cannot advise from a distance on this one. I need to be there, seeing everything, adjusting in real time." There was silence in the room. What Jake was asking for was enormous. He wanted complete control of every Coalition ship in the battle. Every captain would have to follow his orders without question. Every species would have to trust him completely. Marcus Webb looked around the room at all the representatives. "This is too important for a quick decision. I need each of you to consult with your governments. We vote in 2 hours." The 2 hours felt like days to Ilara. She stayed with Jake in their quarters while he prepared for the battle. He barely spoke. He just stared at the map of the Shattered Rings, his eyes moving over every asteroid, every piece of debris, every possible position. "Are you afraid?" Ilara asked him. Jake looked up from the map. "Yes. I am always afraid before a battle. Fear keeps me sharp. It reminds me that people will die if I make mistakes. What if the vote does not go your way? What if they refuse to give you command?" "Then we fight anyway," Jake said. "And we probably lose. But we fight." Ilara walked to where he sat and put her hand on his shoulder. It was the first time she had touched him since their wedding ceremony. "You will win." "I know you will." Jake put his hand over hers. "I hope you are right." The vote was unanimous. Every species agreed to put their ships under Jake's command. Some did it because they trusted him. Some did it because they had no better option. But they all agreed. The Coalition fleet gathered at the Shattered Rings 3 days later. Ilara insisted on coming with Jake. He tried to argue, but she would not listen. "I am your wife," she said. I belong beside you, even in battle. The command ship was called the Unity. It was the largest vessel in the Coalition fleet, built by combining technology from all member species. Jake stood in the command center, surrounded by screens showing every ship in the fleet. Alara stood beside him, watching and trying not to interfere. The Kreeth fleet arrived exactly when Jake predicted they would. 200 massive warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the shattered rings. They moved in perfect formation, like a wall of metal and weapons. All ships, assume positions, Jake said into the communication system. His voice was calm. Remember the plan. Wait for my signal. Craft. The Coalition ships spread out into the asteroid field. They hid behind rocks the size of mountains. They powered down their engines to avoid detection. From the outside, the shattered rings looked empty except for the Unity, which stayed in clear space. Kane's face appeared on the main screen. Commander Morrison, I know who you are. I have studied your battles. You are the only human worth my attention. General Kane, Jake said, you do not have to do this. We can negotiate peace. Kane's 4 eyes all focused on Jake. Peace? After you destroyed my logistics network? After you humiliated my forces? No. There will be no peace until Earth burns. Then we fight, Jake said simply. Kane smiled, showing sharp teeth. You have 1 ship. I have 200. This will not take long. The Kreeth fleet began to move forward. They entered the asteroid field in their tight formation. Jake watched them on the screens. His eyes narrowed. Wait, he said quietly to the Coalition forces. Wait. The Kreeth ships pushed deeper into the field. They were halfway through when Jake spoke again. Now. All groups. Execute. Suddenly, Coalition ships appeared from behind asteroids on all sides. They fired everything they had at the Kreeth formation. The Kreeth fleet was caught completely off guard. They lost 12 ships in the first 30 seconds. Break formation and engage, Kane's voice shouted across Kreeth communication channels. The Kreeth ships scattered, trying to find targets. But every time they focused on one Coalition ship, another would appear from a different angle and hit them. Jake coordinated it all from the Unity. He spoke in short, clear sentences. Group 3. Hit their left flank. Group 7. Fall back to position Delta. Group 2. Target their command carrier. Alara watched in amazement. Jake did not look at notes. He did not check references. He just knew where every ship was. He knew what the Kreeth would do before they did it. When a Kreeth squadron tried to circle around the asteroids, Jake already had 3 Coalition ships waiting for them. When the Kreeth tried to regroup, Jake split them apart with perfectly timed attacks. But the Kreeth had too many ships. Even with Jake's tactics, the Coalition was losing vessels. Captain Ryan Torres's ship took heavy damage. He reported critical failures in 3 systems. Commander, I am losing power. I cannot hold this position. Fall back to the Unity, Jake said. We will cover you. Torres managed to get his damaged ship to safety, but 2 Coalition vessels were destroyed in the process. Their captains died instantly when their ships exploded. Alara saw Jake's jaw tighten. She knew each loss hurt him. They are adapting, Lisa Rodriguez said from her position on another ship. They are learning to expect our ambushes. Then we change tactics, Jake said. He looked at the tactical display for 3 seconds. Just 3 seconds. Then he started giving new orders. All ships, move to Formation 7. We are going to hit them from above. Above? Korath said over the communication line. There is no above in space. Korath said. There is in an asteroid field, Jake said. Most of the fighting has been on a flat plane. They are not watching the vertical axis. Group 9. Climb to position Alpha 6. Group 4. Follow them. Group 11. Swing wide and come down on their supply ships from high angle. The Coalition ships moved as Jake directed. They used the 3-dimensional space in ways the Kreeth had not expected. Within minutes, the Kreeth formation was in chaos. Ships collided with each other, trying to adjust to attacks coming from unexpected directions. But then something went wrong. A Kreth heavy cruiser managed to get a targeting lock on the Unity. It fired a massive beam weapon directly at the command ship. Jake had a split second to react. "Evasive pattern 3, he said to the Unity's pilot. The ship turned hard. The beam missed by meters. But the near miss caused power fluctuations across the ship. Half the screens in the command center went dark. Jake lost visual on 40 ships. "Get those screens back online," Jake said. His voice stayed calm, but Alara could hear the edge in it. "I need to see everything." "Working on it, sir," a technician said. 30 seconds. 30 seconds was a long time in battle. Jake closed his eyes. Alara realized he was seeing the battle in his mind. He was tracking ship positions without the screens. He continued giving orders based on memory and calculation. Group 7. Pull back. Group 9. Cover them. Group 4. Maintain your climb. The screens came back online. Every ship was exactly where Jake had said it would be. He had been right. Even without being able to see them, the battle raged for 2 hours. Both sides lost ships. Both sides adapted and counter-adapted. But slowly, Jake's tactics began to work. The Kreth fleet was breaking apart. They had more ships, but they could not coordinate as well as the coalition forces following Jake's commands. Kane appeared on screen again. His face showed anger now. "You are better than I expected, human, but you cannot win. I still have too many ships." "You have ships," Jake said. "But your crews are tired. Your ammunition is running low. Your formation is broken. Surrender now, and we will let you retreat." "Never," Kane said. He cut the communication. "All ships," Jake said. "Final push. Groups 1 through 5. Form up on my position. Groups 6 through 12. Prepare flanking maneuver beta." The coalition ships moved into position. They formed a spearhead with the Unity at the point. It was a risky move. If it failed, Jake would be in direct danger. But Alara understood why he did it. He was showing the Kreth that he was not hiding behind his forces. He was leading from the front. The coalition spearhead drove straight into what was left of the Kreth formation. At the same time, the flanking groups hit from both sides. The Kreth fleet collapsed. Ships began to surrender. Others tried to run but were cut off. Kane's command ship was one of the last still fighting. It was heavily damaged. One final coalition strike knocked out its weapons. Kane appeared on screen one last time. "You have won, human. But this is not over. The Kreth will return. Then we will fight again," Jake said. "But today, you surrender." Kane's ship powered down. The battle was over. The coalition had lost 23 vessels. The Kreth lost 140. The remaining 60 Kreth ships were captured or disabled. The command center erupted in cheers. Officers hugged each other. Even Korath, the Zentari general who had doubted the plan, was celebrating. But Jake did not celebrate. He just stood there, looking at the list of coalition casualties. 23 ships, 672 people dead. Alara walked to him and took his hand. "You won. You saved Earth. You saved all of us." 672 people did not get saved, Jake said quietly. "They trusted me to bring them home. I failed them." "You gave them a chance," Alara said. "Against 200 ships we should have lost everyone. You saved thousands by losing hundreds. That is victory." Jake looked at her. His eyes were full of pain and exhaustion. "It does not feel like victory." "I know," Alara said. She squeezed his hand. "But you did your duty. You carried the weight. Now let me help you carry it." For the first time since the battle started, Jake allowed himself to lean on her. He was so tired he could barely stand. But he stayed standing because that was who he was. A man who would not stop until everyone was safe. Around them, the coalition fleet began the long process of rescue and recovery. But in that moment, Alara and Jake stood together in the command center, holding each other up, knowing that they had survived something that would change the galaxy forever. 3 months passed after the Battle of the Shattered Rings. The galaxy slowly returned to normal, but nothing was truly the same. The Kreeth Empire, broken and defeated, sent a formal request for peace negotiations. They wanted to meet on New Terra. They wanted to face the human who had destroyed their greatest fleet. Ilara stood on a balcony overlooking the city and watched the sun set over New Terra. The sky turned orange and purple, colors that reminded her of home. Jake stood beside her. He looked better than he had right after the battle. He had slept more. He had smiled a few times, but there were still shadows under his eyes. "Kane arrives tomorrow," Jake said. "This should be interesting." "Are you nervous?" Ilara asked. "A little," Jake admitted. "I have fought the Kreeth many times, but I have never tried to make peace with them. War, I understand. Peace is harder." Ilara took his hand. Over the past 3 months, they had grown closer. It was no longer just a political marriage. They had started to build something real. They talked late into the night. They ate meals together. They learned each other's languages and customs. Ilara taught Jake about Valyrian history. Jake taught her about human music. Small things, normal things, but they mattered. "You will find a way," Ilara said. "You always do." The next morning, General Victor Kane arrived with his delegation. He came in a small ship, not a warship. That was the first sign that he truly wanted peace. The second sign was that he came alone, without an army of guards. He trusted the humans to keep him safe. The meeting took place in the same building where Ilara and Jake had first met. Ilara remembered that day. She had been so nervous. She had expected to meet an arrogant soldier. Instead, she had met a quiet man who carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. Now she stood beside that man as his wife and partner. Everything had changed. Kane entered the room with 4 of his officers. He was even taller in person than he appeared on screens. His red skin looked darker in the natural light. His 4 eyes looked at everything, missing nothing. He was a warrior, but he was also a leader who knew when the fighting had to stop. "Commander Morrison," Kane said. His voice was formal and careful. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me." "General Kane," Jake said. He gestured to chairs around a table. "Please, sit. We have much to discuss." They all sat down. Ilara noticed that Jake sat across from Kane, not at the head of the table. It was a small thing, but it sent a message. This was not about one side being superior. This was about equals finding a way forward. "I will be direct," Kane said. "The Kreeth Empire cannot continue this war. You have defeated us at every turn. You have destroyed our fleet. You have broken our will to fight. If we continue, you will destroy us completely." "I do not want to destroy you," Jake said. "I never wanted war in the first place. I just wanted to protect my people. And now, I want to protect all coalition people." Kane's 4 eyes studied Jake carefully. "You are not what I expected. I studied your battles for years. I thought you would be cruel, aggressive, but you are neither of those things. You are something else. Something I do not understand." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "You are a warrior who does not enjoy war," Kane said. "You win battles, but you do not celebrate victory. You mourn your dead even when you defeat your enemies. This is strange to me. Kreeth warriors are taught to glory in combat. You seem to hate it." "I do hate it," Jake said quietly. "War is necessary sometimes, but it is always a failure. It means we could not solve our problems with words, so we solve them with death instead. That is nothing to celebrate." Kane was silent for a long moment. Then he said something in his own language. One of his officers leaned forward and whispered a translation to Jake. "He says you are wiser than he thought humans could be." Jake smiled slightly. "I will take that as a compliment." "It is," Kane said, switching back to the common language. "Now, let us speak of peace. What are your terms?" Marcus Webb had given Jake authority to negotiate. It was unusual for a military officer to handle diplomacy. But after the battle, everyone agreed that Kane would not respect anyone else. He would only respect the man who had beaten him. The terms are simple, Jake said. The Kreeth Empire agrees to stop all attacks on Coalition worlds. In return, the Coalition will not invade Kreeth space. We establish a neutral zone between our territories. Neither side enters that zone without permission from the other. That is all? Kane seemed surprised. You do not demand reparations? You do not demand that we surrender worlds we have taken? The worlds you took during the war will be returned, Jake said. But the worlds that were Kreeth before the war started remain Kreeth. We are not trying to conquer you. We just want peace. Kane looked at his officers. They whispered to each other in their language. Finally, Kane turned back to Jake. These terms are acceptable. But I have a question. Why are you being so generous? You could demand much more. We are defeated. Jake leaned back in his chair. Because I want this peace to last. If I crush you completely, you will only rebuild and attack again in 10 or 20 years. Your pride will demand it. But if I offer you fair terms, if I treat you with respect even in defeat, then maybe you will choose a different path. You want us to become allies? Kane asked. The idea seemed to shock him. I want you to become partners, Jake said. The galaxy is big. There are threats out there we have not met yet. Resources we have not found. Problems we have not solved. Humans, Kreeth, Valyrians. All the Coalition species. We are stronger together than apart. Kane was quiet for a very long time. His 4 eyes looked at Jake with something new in them. Understanding. Maybe. Or the beginning of respect. You truly believe this? Yes, Jake said. I have fought too many battles. I have seen too many people die. If there is a way to avoid more death, I will take it. Every time. Kane stood up. For a moment, Alara thought he would reject the terms and leave. But instead, he extended his hand toward Jake. It was a human gesture. One that Kane must have learned specifically for this meeting. The Kreeth Empire accepts your terms, Commander Morrison. We will sign the treaty. Jake stood and took Kane's hand. They shook once, firmly. Around the table, both Kreeth and Coalition officers looked shocked. This war had lasted for decades. Millions had died, and now it was ending with a handshake. There is one more thing, Kane said. The Kreeth have a tradition. When we respect an enemy, we offer them a gift. I wish to offer you something. You do not need to give me anything, Jake said. I insist, Kane said. He gestured to one of his officers, who brought forward a small case. Kane opened it and took out a blade. It was beautiful, with a curved edge and a handle wrapped in dark leather. This knife belonged to my grandfather. He carried it in 100 battles. It is the most valuable thing I own. I give it to you as a symbol of respect. You defeated me in war. Now help me build peace. Jake took the knife carefully. He studied it for a moment, then looked at Kane. I am honored. I will carry this, and remember what it represents. Not victory over an enemy, but the start of friendship between former enemies. Kane's expression softened slightly. For the first time, Alara saw something like a smile on the Kreeth general's face. You are a strange human, Commander Morrison, but perhaps that is what the galaxy needs, someone who thinks differently. The formal treaty was signed 2 days later. Representatives from all Coalition species attended. The Valyrian Empress Kaida came personally. When she saw Alara and Jake together, she pulled her daughter aside. You seem happy, the Empress said. This marriage has been good for you. It has been good for everyone, Alara said. Jake is a remarkable person, Mother. I am lucky to have married him. The luck is not just yours, Kaida said. The luck belongs to the entire galaxy. That man saved us all. After the signing ceremony, there was a great celebration. People from every species gathered to mark the end of the war. There was food, and music, and speeches. But Jake did not stay long. He slipped away after an hour. Alara found him in a quiet garden behind the building. He was sitting on a bench, looking at the stars above. She sat beside him without speaking. They stayed that way for several minutes, just being together, in the quiet. "Are you all right?" Elara finally asked. "I keep thinking about the people who died," Jake said. 672 at the Shattered Rings. Thousands more in the other battles. They should be here celebrating. But they are not. Because of decisions I made. "You saved millions by sacrificing hundreds," Elara said. "That is the burden of command. You know this. Knowing it does not make it easier," Jake said. He looked at her. "Do you ever regret marrying me? This is not the life you expected." Elara thought about the question carefully. When she first arrived on New Terra, she had been angry about the marriage. She had felt like a piece being moved on a game board, but now, everything was different. "I do not regret it," she said. "I have learned so much from you. About leadership. About sacrifice. About what it means to serve others instead of yourself. I have learned from you too," Jake said. "You have shown me that there is more to life than war and tactics. You have reminded me to be human. Not just a commander." They sat in comfortable silence for a while longer. Then Elara said, "Admiral Grant asked you to be Supreme Military Commander of the Coalition Forces. What did you tell her?" "What?" Jake smiled slightly. "I said no. I do not want that title. I do not want that responsibility. What do you want?" "I want to teach," Jake said. "The Naval Academy on Earth has offered me a position. I would train the next generation of officers. Not just humans. All species. I would teach them to think strategically, to value life, to understand that war is the last option, not the first." "That sounds perfect for you," Elara said. "What about you?" Jake asked. "What do you want?" "I want to help rebuild the diplomatic relationships between our species," Elara said. "The war created many wounds. Someone needs to help heal them. I think I can do that." "So we both have new jobs," Jake said. "What does that mean for us?" Elara took his hand. "It means we figure out how to do those jobs together. It means we build a life that matters. It means we start a family. Maybe. If you want that." Jake looked surprised. "You want to have children? With me?" "Yes," Elara said. "I know this marriage started as politics, but it has become something real. Something worth building on. I love you, Jake. I want a future with you." Jake pulled her close and kissed her gently. When they parted, he was smiling, really smiling. "I love you too. I did not think I would. But I do. You are the best thing that came out of this war." They sat together in the garden as the celebration continued in the building behind them. Above them, the stars shone bright. Those same stars held planets full of people who could now live in peace. People who did not know Jake Morrison's name. People who would never know that one quiet man had changed the course of galactic history. But Elara knew. She would always know. And she would spend the rest of her life making sure that Jake's legacy was not just about winning battles. It was about building peace. About teaching others. About showing that true strength comes from knowing when to fight and when to lay down your weapons. A year later, Elara and Jake welcomed their first child. She was a girl with silver Valyrian skin and Jake's brown eyes. They named her Hope, because that was what she represented. Hope for a future where different species could come together, where children would grow up not knowing war, where peace was normal instead of rare. Jake continued to teach at the academy. Officers from every coalition species studied under him. He taught them to be more than warriors. He taught them to be leaders who valued life above victory. His students spread across the galaxy, carrying his lessons with them. They became the next generation of military leaders, but they fought differently than those who came before. They fought smarter. They fought with purpose. And they only fought when they had no other choice. Elara worked with coalition diplomats to build new agreements between species. She used her position as both a Valyrian princess and Jake's wife to bridge gaps that had existed for generations. She was good at it. better than she ever expected to be. General Victor Kane visited them once a year. The Kreeth had kept the peace treaty. They had even begun to trade with coalition worlds. Kane and Jake had developed an unusual friendship. They would spend hours discussing strategy and tactics, but also philosophy and ethics. Two warriors who had learned that the greatest victory was not defeating your enemy. It was turning your enemy into a friend. 10 years after the Battle of the Shattered Rings, Jake stood at a memorial for those who had died in the war. Alara stood beside him with Hope and their two younger children. The memorial was simple, just a wall with names carved into stone. 672 names from the final battle, thousands more from earlier fights. Jake touched one of the names gently. "I remember them all," he said quietly. "Every single one. Their faces, their voices, what they died trying to protect. They would be proud of what you built," Alara said. "This peace, this future. They did not die for nothing." "I hope you are right," Jake said. A young officer approached them. She was human, maybe 25 years old. She saluted Jake nervously. "Commander Morrison, I am Lieutenant Amy Cooper. I just graduated from the academy. I wanted to thank you. Your classes changed how I think about everything." Jake smiled at her. "What will you do now, Lieutenant?" "I have been assigned to a diplomatic escort mission," Cooper said. "Taking a Kreeth delegation to meet with Zentari leaders. It is not exciting, but it matters. It matters more than you know," Jake said. "Every peaceful meeting is a victory. Every day without war is a gift. Never forget that." "I will not, sir," Cooper said. She saluted again and walked away. Alara watched the young officer go. "That is your real legacy," she said to Jake. "Not the battles you won. The people you taught to build peace." Jake put his arm around her. "I could not have done any of it without you. You showed me that there was life after war, that I could be more than just a commander." "We showed each other," Alara said. She leaned against him, feeling safe and happy. "We built this together." Their children ran ahead on the path, laughing and playing. They did not know their father was famous. They just knew he was Dad. He taught them to be kind, to think before acting, to protect those weaker than themselves. Small lessons, but important ones. As the sun set on New Terra, Jake and Alara walked home with their family. Behind them, the memorial stood silent, a reminder of what had been lost. But ahead of them was a future full of possibility. A future built on the foundation of sacrifice and earned respect. A future where a princess from a distant world and a quiet human commander had shown the galaxy that peace was possible. Not because anyone forced it, but because people chose it. One decision at a time. One day at a time. Together.